If you've been watching this channel for a decent amount of time, you would have very quickly realised that I love games that emphasise movement. More specifically, I really like blast jumping in Team Fortress 2. I've literally got thousands of hours logged in jump servers, and a little while back, I made this video. I interviewed a mapper named False_. He makes really good jump maps, and as it turned out, he was very passionately working on this little thing called Momentum Mod. And he told me a lot of really interesting things about it, and ever since, I've been keeping up with all of their development and all of their announcements, and I've even been playing in the beta of their game for a while now. But even with that, I've had a whole lot of questions about the game. How is the tutorial gonna work? How will the XP system works? What's the logic behind the changes in certain game modes? What goals does the game have for the future? All of these questions are unsurprisingly difficult to find answers to, but I just had to know. So I thought, what better way to find my answers than get it directly from Mr. Momentum Man himself.
My name is Nick. I go by Gocnak online. I'm the lead developer and kind of co-founder of Momentum Mod, a standalone platforming speedrunning game focusing on Source Engine related movement mechanics. I used to do so much Half-Life 2 speedrunning back in the day, so just Source has been on my mind ever since, honestly, 2005. After I would do runs, I would kind of calm down or chill out with chat playing surf. I would go on CSS and I would just surf and chill, and I would have friends in the voice chat or something just talking. And I started to realize that it was getting really annoying to play Surf LT Omnific. I really wanted to beat that map, but the server was never on it. I didn't have any idea how to set up the local server, and plus you have to get the plugins for it and all of that. Right. And it started to dawn on me that you don't need a multiplayer server to do this. You just need the map, you just need the settings, you need a timer, but you don't really need multiplayer or a base game, really. Some of these maps use completely custom content, right? You don't even really need CSS assets in some of them. And so the game started off as this idea as well, what if I just made it easier to make a local server sort of thing for Surf and Bunny Hop, right? What if there's just this platform, the Source Mod thing that you could download that makes it easier to just play whatever map you want and get a local time. I didn't really think about the globalization and centralization aspect until probably after we got surfing working.
I've been fortunate enough to have a key to the closed beta of Momentum Mod for a while now, and I've been consistently playing it the entire time, watching all the things get added slowly but surely around me. And it's extremely impressive, but as you can imagine, it's left me with quite a lot of questions about where things are going. Now, the modes that I have the most experience with are sticky jumping and rocket jumping, and the recreations of these modes in the game feel extremely true to the source material, but they're not exactly the same. There's a few mechanical changes that have been made in these modes for one reason or another. For example, in Sticky Jump you do not have a health bar, you have infinite health, but to compensate for that you can only lay 3 stickies down at any given time. Shooting a 4th sticky fizzles out the first one you shot. But this means that in Momentum Mod I can just place 3 stickies and det them under my feet, something that cannot be done in Team Fortress 2. If you do that in TF2 you sort of, die. So it left me thinking, why did these changes get made? Were those gameplay changes there because you think that you're improving on the game mode? Or are they there because they're sort of limitations of how Momentum Mod works? Do you think you're improving upon it? Or is it just sort of you're trying to get it as close as humanly possible, but there's certain areas where you have to change it?
Yeah, it's honestly a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B.
Right.
So with my approach to the game modes, because obviously I'm not a pro jumper, right? I've barely done it, but I've been, I'm making this game to play it. So my goal is to get these modes feeling as authentic as you can get. The design for Momentum is making it not only just an experience that's familiar for a lot of people on servers, professional surfers that do hundreds of hours, a week, or, spend at least every day doing it, all the way down to somebody that has never ever touched any of these modes being able to get into the game. So when it comes to things like edge bugs or wall bugs or ramp bugs, we want to get rid of that. right? That's the one-to-oneness that we don't want, right? It's true one-to-one if we kept them in. It's definitely it's the trade, right? Of like how much one-to-oneness do you actually need for a mode to thrive? It's something that the team and I talk about a lot, and it's, you know, I would love to make executive decisions, but I realize that if I did that, it would actually only be me playing the game. So I don't want that either, right? It's a trade because you're trading off potential skill, right? Because not everyone can wall bug. You have to know angles and like it takes a bit of getting used to, but it's also a bug and it's also a crutch, and it turns into, well, to make it a level playing field, if we just remove it and focus on the core mechanics of the mode itself, being the rocket jumping, the maneuvering around the map, instead of relying on something like this as a backup, that would be better. And there's also mechanics like bounces and things like that we can make more consistent. The overall goal of Momentum is consistency. So ramp bugs have been primarily random, right? Like there's some bad ramps that you get them constantly, but like. Right. They can be random, and if you've watched like Surf's Up or anything like that, where it happens randomly in the middle of the tournament, it's awful. And so having that be removed to make it like what you're getting into when it comes to gameplay here, it is probably the most favorable outcome here.
There are mechanical changes you've made to Conk and made to B-Hop that are different. Are any of them as sizable as the ones to Sticky Jump and Rocket Jump, or are they a bit smaller?
One of the changes that we actually tried to implement, just to kind of trial phase it, was start on jump. The idea that your run doesn't really start when you leave a zone, it starts when you do kind of like the first main input. And then for Rocket Jump and Sticky Jump, it would have been first firing of your like first rocket or your first sticky, because it includes setup time, right? And we thought it would equal out where, because you jumped and you're technically in the air and gaining more speed as you fall down onto the ramp. But no, it just ended up being no. It's like you gain I think an extra 30 or something units by the time you're on the ramp, and in most cases. And so we ended up reverting, and so I think B-Hop is the only one that still kind of has the start on jump behavior. I think A-Hop has it as well, because you kind of circle strafe. So there are some game modes that might still have it. The other aspect that I love that Momentum has is we have the ability, or we are a fresh slate. Like, we can try different mechanics, we can try different things that people have been grieving over in their current platforms, because we are going to be at 1.0 a fresh slate, everybody on the same level, everybody can go for PBs and world records alike. So a lot of what we're doing right now is experimenting and trying to figure out a direction for each mode. It's very, very sensitive per mode.
Another thing I've been very curious about is how Momentum Mod's tutorial system is going to look. The game, when it releases, is going to be a free game on Steam, so there's bound to be a ton of people who have never heard of any of these game modes, who don't play any of the original games, who download the game because it's free and it looks kinda cool. But these game modes can be extremely complex and hard to get into, so I wanted to know how the team planned on showing new players the ropes. Because learning these things can be a daunting task, but it's vital to the game's longevity for a player to be able to get in the door and start playing immediately.
So the campaign is aiming to be the main experience that you could get when you download Momentum Mod, and if you've never played any of these modes before. Right now we have around 4, I think, campaigns planned. So Surf, Bunny Hop, Rocket Jump, and Sticky Jump. But we can always, we're designing kind of the story, we're designing this experience around, we could always add more later. But the idea is to kind of guide players, because we have the learn section, which is going to be learning all of the mechanics, but it's kind of discontinuous. You have to manually select all of the individual mechanics and learn them, and you have the gameplay experience around those individual components, which teaches, and then you can be really smart about that and have those components actually tie in with maps. Because when we're adding maps, we could be like, oh, this has a lot of air pogo, for example, and we could tag it as like an air pogo map. And then when you learn air pogo, we point inside of our learn section to be like, hey, here's a tier 2 map that has air pogo, or something like that, right? That's what the learn section is going to be doing, kind of tying in with the custom maps. But then our campaign is going to be just educating you through, here's how to just move, here's how to shoot the sticky launcher, here's how you can get up onto a all through a tutorial, along with a story that's kind of not really mandatory, right? We want people to be able to play the campaign if they're used to the modes and not really like dig into the story, but the story is going to be more of a hidden aspect.
How is it structured and how do you do it? And most importantly, in my opinion, how do you differentiate to a player who's new of like, what is the difference between this is easy, this is medium, this is really hard, this is tier 6? How do you differentiate between those two things?
So one of the things that we're going to be doing is when you first boot up the game, we're going to be kind of really annoying, but we're going to have this, we have to do it, right? We're going to have this UI that pops up and it's like, hey, welcome to Momentum. Are you used to any of these modes? And we list all of the modes and we have kind of like 3 columns of like familiarity. And so if you're unfamiliar with every single mode, it will actually lock the UI. You won't be able to play any maps by default. You'll actually only have the learn section. And the learn section is going to have all of the mechanics and then how to practice them. So it's going to be, think of just like a general like list that's subsectioned into like tiers basically of so you have like tier 0, right, which is like general stuff. So it's like, here's how to move, here's how to get used to the tick rate, the air excel, and then we start to look at like tier 1, which is like, okay, this is how you double, and then we start learning, like tier 2 and onwards, it's like, okay, here's how you double pre, here's how you, here's a triple, but like here's how to use triple effectively, and like here's ammo limiting and things like that. How to maneuver around the different mechanics that could be inside of maps. Obviously, that might get annoying for some people. They just want to play maps. So we'll actually have that be completely toggleable in the settings. Like if you're like, oh, hey, I actually know what I'm doing, you can get me out of this. You can go into the settings and we'll have like a button to press to unlock. I mean, that's kind of valuable there because we really don't want to throw people in to like the tier 3 and up maps if they've never played any of these modes.
Tier 3. If you've never played Team Fortress 2 before and you try tier 1 map, you can't do it. It's not possible.
Exactly.
You don't know what's going on. The tutorial system is going to be, you're going to differentiate between this technique, and that technique with the tier system, right? So it's not a mystery to anyone that the tiering system, as good as it can be, it doesn't work for every game mode as well as others.
Right.
And it's not as specific as you'd probably like it to be. So are there any plans to change the tiering system, or are you just sort of going to make it very clear what it is? Like, you're going to make it clear that it's not that specific. You're going to say, well, a tier 1 map is a tier 1 map, but there's hard tier 1s and easy tier 1s, and you're going to make this clear. Or are you going to change it and make it 10 tiers, or whatever? You nailed it there. We are aiming to flesh it out more, to be more tiers, to give more padding. The tier system is what we've been using in multiple game modes for the last 20 years to discern difficulty. The old tier system worked from tier 1 to tier 6. Tier 1 was the easiest maps that there were, and tier 6 was the hardest. As good as that might sound, it was a pretty flawed system, since some maps within a tier would be easier than others. It was only designed to give you a general idea of how hard a map was, and was not quite as accurate as you might like it to be. So hearing that this tier system will be given more tiers to make it more precise is great news. But now let's get onto the progression system that the game is going to have. In the beta version, you earn XP after a run, and the amount of XP you get is correlated to how hard the map you just beat was. But the beta doesn't actually have any use or clarification of what this XP does, so I thought I'd ask about it.
The two systems that we're going to have, right, we can't cater to just people grinding for world records and groups and things like that. So what we do is we actually have this overarching system that goes across every single game mode, which is the cosmetic or casual kind of XP and leveling based system. This is, you gain XP for basically everything you do in the game. Beating a map, beating your PB, winning a race. We'll have challenges, milestones, things like that that you can go towards that will also grant this. This is directly correlated to the cosmetic store, so that's why we use the term cosmetic, because every XP that you gain translates to a currency unit. And that currency unit can then be spent on the cosmetic store to unlock cosmetics for your person. And no, you can't buy that. We we have a nice agreement with Valve. We can't sell anything in the game. So you can buy cosmetics, and these are going to be cosmetics that show up in your replays and in lobbies, and so they're, there's something valuable to show off to people. This cosmetic system though is more, it's casual. So it's gearing more towards, hey, just like kind of complete things. Don't worry about the timer. That level of completion and rewarding the casual side of play, because there's a lot of people that will not ever get to a group 5 time. They don't care. They see the hundreds, if not thousands of maps, and they're like, I want to get that number, that percent completion to 100. That's what they see, and that's their fun in the game. They play with friends, they play, or in the clan servers or something. They don't really go for the dedicated times. They just kind of go towards completion and doing these things. And then there's the other side to that, the veterans, the pros, right, that want to get top 10s in every map, or group 1s, or, you know, get into specific placements in these times. And so the ranked side of things are only on specific ranked maps, and what we look at is just your time compared to everybody else. Going back to the cosmetic side, you get a cosmetic XP drop based on the tier of the map, right? You look at, you know, did you beat a PB and stuff like that? How much did you beat the PB by? We could look at that kind of stuff. But for the ranked side, it is purely time. So obviously, harder maps are going to have less completions. That's just a given. It's you're going to be a higher rank on a harder map if you beat it. So therefore, you are going to get higher rank points, right? So, and then rank points are game mode specific, and then also technically leaderboard specific, right? So if you're doing main map runs, that's kind of the main rank XP. But there's also going to be ranked tracks, like bonus tracks, you know, things like that, where you have kind of more of like a subcategory of rank points for the mode there. But the total rank points, right, is all of your main map completions that you've competed against. So having that level of casual side, right, offering this sort of progression for people that are just trying to get better at the modes, right, before they even try to go for times, all the way into leading into, hey, you know, if you're doing more casual things, we can kind of make the rank points not as important, but in the end game, right, the repeatable content, the end game grind or whatever is going for world records, right? You want to get the best time that you can possibly get, because that's what we're focusing on. So having those two systems, I think, caters to both sides, but also they intertwine, right? So if you're going for these times, you're going to be getting the cosmetic XP from grinding, you know, completing these maps, but you're also going to be getting, right, you're going to be getting better, I guess, recognition.
So the official release of Momentum Mod 1.0 is going to have 6 core game modes with a learn section for each, but that campaign isn't going to be there until a later patch. 2.0, as the devs are calling it, is going to be the patch with all the campaign stuff added in. And there will be patches between 1.0 and 2.0 with new additions as well. So I was wondering what plans they had in store for us after the release of the game. And just as a disclaimer, these are only plans. GOC isn't promising us anything, and depending on time constraints or the player base's ever-shifting interests, these are likely subject to change. But I was curious what plans they had in mind for us in patches after that 1.0 release, and what game modes that aren't currently planned to be added are the team thinking about adding in the future.
Like the immediate releases after 1.0, I think a lot of it will be, first of all, fixes. We're getting a lot more people into the game, so they're going to find
a bunch of bugs they'll find.
A lot of stuff. But the eventual goal is towards 2.0. That's kind of what the team's going to be focusing on, which is the campaign.
There's a big list of game modes already, but there's a lot of games with movement game modes, right? Are there any ideas you've got in mind that you're, like, eyeing up for things you'd want to put in the game?
They get into the niche categories, but yes. A big example is trimping.
Yes.
From TF2. That's been requested a lot. Demo nights represent, I guess.
I love now. I was right before talking to you.
Yeah.
I was playing PL Upward with the Tide Timer, and I was landing on people's heads. It's the most fun you can have in the game.
We have Trick Surf, so I guess let me start there. We have the Trick Surf system, where Trick Surf is surf that's more on these combat surf maps, these old combat surf maps, because the combat surf maps were these open sort of arenas, kind of like playground maps in a way. And what you do is you actually place triggers basically on every single ramp, every single platform through the air and stuff like that. And then you can actually create these paths, user-defined paths that you surf through, hitting specific triggers in a specific order, and they're called tricks, right? So you know, there's some intricate tricks that are long, that are really, really challenging, right? They all have tiers, but the system is technically, we're designing it to be abstract as abstract as possible, so that we can have trick jump, we can have, or trick rocket jump, trick sticky jump. And so the idea behind this starts to turn into, all right, modes are actually game modes are going to actually have sub modes So there's like speedrun, right? The default. There's going to be trick, which is the trick system, go and play maps that have tricks on them and, submit your own if you want to, or try to complete. The main, goal there is completion for trick related modes. These modes will actually have sub-modes. So technically, trimping can either become its own mode or a sub-mode. The same thing with Beggar's Bazooka, which was another thing that was being brought up. People are like, there's content that could be made. And it turns into a chicken and egg problem of like, okay, well, there's no content for Beggars or Trimp, but there's also no platform for Beggars or Trimp. It could actually even be experimental, like experimentally added as these own dedicated modes with their own dedicated settings until we get enough content or until it takes off. And if it doesn't, we just remove it because it's experimental. Yeah. So like there's the level of experimentation there that we can add to kind of lab these new modes. Having kind of different ways to play the game is more of a 2.0 sort of thing, but it's not like 10 modes and we're done. It's we're focusing on these 10 as a starter. And even the fact that we just focused on Rocket Jump, Sticky Jump, and A-Hop and Kong, it's the realization that Momentum Mod as a platform, it's more than just 1 or 2 game modes that you know.
So I wanted to finish off talking about the devs of Momentum Mod. Because if you didn't know, all of the people working on this game are volunteers. Nobody is getting paid, and the game when it releases will be completely free with no microtransactions. But despite having no monetary incentive whatsoever, the game has a team of a dozen or so devs working to make the game as good as they can make it. So how did these people end up working on the game? You've got a team of devs that are all working on the game. Where did these people come from? How did you recruit in quote marks these people into your game?
I wanted to build this really cool platform that offers all these really awesome features, right? And so people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And so if you make a convincing enough platform, you don't really even need to kind of like try to, persuade or lure or whatever, right? Like it just makes sense. Right. People finding the platform being like, I believe in this. This is, in my opinion, much better than what I'm coming from, or I believe in where it's going and the person behind it. Now, obviously, our website's open source. And so, hey, if you want to contribute, by the way, you can get access to the game. The biggest thing for keys right now, for access for the game, is contribution. So when the game was open source, obviously the game, website, Discord bot, we have documentation as well. We have a lot of issues documenting what we need to be what we actually need documented. Any help that we get, goes towards getting a key and having this open source website where, if there's stats or things that you want to see on it, that's kind of the open invitation there. It's nice to have this level of openness for the data that people are submitting. I'm excited to see kind of how the game grows over time, especially after 1.0.
Is there anything you want to end with? You want to cap the end, say something?
Yeah, I mean, we do have our Discord, we have, our Twitter, we try to use them regularly. We even have a TikTok. So we're definitely trying to kind of foster our own community as well as bring in communities along, from servers and stuff like that. So if you're interested in any of Momentum, right, definitely check out our Discord, stay up to date with the game's development. I'm pumped. I'm hoping that as more and more details of the game come out and we start to actually get it in people's hands, and we're just really excited to have as many people check out the game and try it out and give us their opinion on it.
I cannot thank Gocnak enough for doing this interview with me. The man works a full-time job alongside being the lead developer of this project, and he was still able to find the time to talk to me, and I had a blast doing it. Like he said, if you're interested in the game in any capacity, I've linked to a ton of related stuff in the description. I have so much faith in Momentum Mod, because as much as I love movement game modes, the nature of the servers we play on can cause a lot of problems for them that aren't really easy to remedy. But Momentum Mod seems to be that remedy. It is going to fix all of these problems and even propel these game modes into a new light that we've never seen them in before. Thanks for watching.